saying as well, trying to get the younger generation into this as well, is to deal with the demographic issue we were saying there. But you were saying there that farmers looking at people taking, younger generation taking over their own farm. Getting into farming must be quite hard. You probably don't do much with that, do you? You don't do much with sort of getting those who may want to go into farming and sort of finding them a way into it, because it must be quite hard. I mean, I've grown up on the farm here, but looking around, if I wanted my own farm that wasn't taking of my parents, it's almost, I mean, it's impractical, at least if it's not impossible.
Yeah, so I would say it's not really what FCN is here to do, in terms of, there's probably other organizations that you'd be better off speaking to if you're a young person looking to go into farming. But that said, our volunteers, like I mentioned, are from farming backgrounds, and they have seen it all and heard it all, and they've got good knowledge and experience. We're very supportive of younger people getting into farming, and indeed quite a lot of the people that we hear from on social media. I just had someone this week message me who's really active on TikTok, who's a younger person, who's basically said that they want to fundraise for FCN through TikTok. And that is a platform that's predominantly used by a much younger audience, teenagers, quite a lot of to sort of young adults. And we're engaging with farmers through platforms like that, and young farmers through Instagram as well. And where we can add value, I suppose, is by demonstrating that farming isn't all doom and gloom. I think there's a lot of, particularly in the public discourse, there's perhaps a lot of doom and gloom around farming, sort of why would you want to do it, that kind of thing. But I think there are loads of reasons why someone might want to go into it. And actually quite a lot of people that I've spoken to who've gone into farming perhaps a bit later in life is quite often it's people who've actually gone to work in places like London or other big cities, and they've found that lifestyle isn't for them, and they really want to get back to nature, they want to get back to the countryside, they want to get away from the city or the fast-paced lifestyle that they were having there. Not saying that farmers don't work very long hours, because they do, absolutely, but it's a different sort of work, I suppose. But yeah, so I just think it's great that anything we can do to get more young people to see the benefits and the reasons to go into farming is really important.
It's so hard sometimes, isn't it? Because I mean, I think a lot of people would get into it because of the lifestyle. Because I mean, at the minute, it's a bit of a thankless task at times when you've got, as you say, you've got floods, and then you've got wind, and then you've got your pests coming up now, so on and so on. And then on top of that, not only are you working those long hours doing various things of relying on the weather to help you out, as then you've got, I think there seems to be more and more these days, there's more of a, not a demonization is the wrong word, but I don't know what word I'd be looking for, of farmers and the impact on the climate. When again, we just spoke just before to Tim about it, the impact that the actual farmer has on an individual basis is quite small in comparison to the other 21st century life. And yet there seems to be in the media that they're the ones getting picked on. I think one of the only real justifications for that is the fact that the farmers and landowners are the only real way of dealing with climate change issues that we have, apart from minimizing. We have to use the land differently, which is one argument. But I don't know. I mean, I assume you must have to deal with that on a fairly regular basis. This public bombardment of agricultural in general, particularly with animal agriculture.
I mean, farmers obviously they care a lot about what they do, and they care about their livestock, of course they do. And so a lot of the time I think public perception, maybe there are some credible cases that people could make about the impact of farming, and I'm sure there's some evidence to support that. But I think when you get people who are like your Twitter warrior type people, who are going off on one based on not really much research, or seeing a one-sided argument without considering the other side of the equation. This month's it's February at the moment, and I saw yesterday that February dairy was trending, and I was like, well, before I clicked the hashtag, I was saying, well, this is going to go one of two ways. It's going to be either this is a great month to eat and consume dairy, or it's going to be loads of people piling on the dairy industry. quite a lot of it was going that way. That was a shame to see, and it was people posting photos of cows saying my milk is for my mother, not for you, and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, or my milk is for my babies, not for you, you know, that kind of thing. It's kind of almost entering sort of like lobbying and propaganda, and people with very clear.
I mean, I've always avoided Twitter for that reason. But I mean, I've never had a Twitter account. But from what I hear of it, I mean, it is just a space these days. I don't know how true this is, but of just people can go on there to sort of abuse each other. It doesn't seem to be that much good comes out of that outside of the Twitter. I'm sure that there is, but it seems that people's mental health is struggling when they go on Twitter more than just leaving it alone.
Social media can be really great. I mean, I'm a marketing communications manager, and social media is a big part of my day to day. So I definitely can't denounce it completely. It's got where it's at its best, if you ask me, is where you can get enormous amounts of support behind certain campaigns, such as the campaign that Marcus Rashford did, the footballer, to get school meals to kids, which was really, really amplified through social media and got all this public backing. And that's great, you know, and that's actually can put pressure on the government to make changes, and successfully in some instances, which is fantastic. Where I see the negative side of that is what's called doom scrolling, which is basically where people are almost seeking out stuff that's going to make them angry, make them irritated, make them even sad in some instances. And I found myself doing this myself actually in January, actually, because I pay a heck of a lot of attention to American politics. And obviously, they've had quite a lot of issues with the election over there.
It's been quiet now. It's been a nice rest.
I wouldn't agree. It's been quiet. I think things are wrong. But the thing is, there, you know, I was finding myself obsessing and deliberately looking for commentary by very unsavory characters, and I was getting really angry and wound up. And then I was saying to myself, you know, I've got to step away because this isn't good for me. And I have no influence over this. I can't actually change anything in relation to what's going on. I need to chill out now because it's actually starting to affect me. And I think some people can get into that mindset. The other question I have is when people I'm allowed to be on social media in the day because it's part of my job. But if you're someone who's sort of on Twitter 9 till 5 kind of constantly, I do question, is that the best use of your time? Or
especially if it takes away from your job. I mean, I don't know. That's tricky, isn't it? I didn't know, but I don't know. What I was thinking is maybe if you had calls that directly related to people on social media. I mean, I don't know if that would probably get people down as such, would it? You know, so much comes to you.
Yeah. I don't think we get many calls by people who specifically are citing public opinions and negative perception of members of the public as the reason why they're getting in touch with us. But on a broader, more macro scale, it probably does play a role. I know that one thing that annoyed quite a lot of farmers was there was an advert on TV recently, which was basically shaming a dad for drinking milk. And I think the comment, it's like a dad sort of sneaks into the fridge in the middle of the night and his kid catches him and says, "Really, Dad?" Because he was drinking cow's milk. And he was sort of suggesting drink a different type of milk that isn't cow's milk. And it's things like that must be quite irritating. If you are a dairy farmer and you see something like that, I mean, that's an affront to your business and your life, right? Everything you're doing
sure. Today. I hadn't seen this. If we were in person, we could put it on. We normally have a screen behind. We could have put it on, but I haven't seen this one. But yeah, I know.
No, it's things like that where I just think that I understand why they're doing it, because there's commercial interests in pushing a particular product and knocking the competitors down. But I just want people to be more sympathetic and respectful of and trying to see both sides of the argument in everything, not just in farming, but in every facet of almost everything. You know, try and see both sides before you go off on one, because there's usually a more complex story to be told than what you're seeing just from reading one source or one bit of information.
Yeah, sure.